So during those 3 lessons, you've obviously been doing your AFL because you've known, so you've done your assessment for learning, you've known at the end of the lesson where you want to take them. And that leads in and feeds in to APP. I think it's fair to say we're all at the beginning of APP. And as a school, we actually started with maths. Lots of schools started with literacy. We were only one of 2 schools that started with maths. So what I've done, the big sheet of paper that you've got, they're the main objectives, right? And we're looking at level 5. In the actual APP paperwork, they split down. They give you the main objectives and then they give you examples underneath. So to start with, we're just going to look at the main objectives. We can have that by the side of us. We're looking at level 5 mathematicians. We want to be thinking about the Williams report. So we'll start with using and applying. Okay, and we use focus groups in this school. Some schools will do individuals. Lot of paperwork, lot of time if you're going to do it for individuals. The idea being that if you've got a focus group and you get your judgment right, then we're judged to be judging the other levels right as well. So if we get this level 5 group right, then if we're focusing on a level 4B or a 3A, whatever it happens to be, we should be able to get it right. So we are looking at using and applying. So we've got problem solving, communicating, which is another big thing from the Williams, and their reasoning. So let's have a look. Let's see what we could highlight for that group. Simple, straight. If we go for the straightforward, check results, considering whether they're reasonable. They were certainly looking at that and thinking, well, that can't be right, or that can be right. So that is something that they could do. The way it splits it up here is solving word problems, it's check results, it's check as they work, and spotting and correcting errors. And I think those children, they can do that. So we can highlight it, and it's as simple as that. We highlight it, we put at the top our focus group and say what we're talking about. This is where, the ones I'm going to look at now, it says show understanding of situations by describing them mathematically using symbols, words and diagrams, how their communication is. Now, this is where we might split it up and we might think, well, actually, Jake's not as good at that, right? And we're only going to look at using and applying and shape, space and measure. I would think that if I looked at numbers, Jake would colour it, or he'd be highlighted the whole lot. So we're looking at the 2 areas, and we've got to be aware that we've got lots of different areas. Solve word problems and investigations from a range of contexts. Go back to your very first lesson, the fencing one. Yeah, they did that. That's one example. Right. So what we have to be aware of then is, can they do it in different examples? So we might just put a mark by the side. Well, I've seen them do that, right? And I've got evidence, but I want a bit more evidence, right? So I might be thinking along that line. Draw simple conclusions from their own. Of their own, and give an explanation for their reasoning. That's exactly what you did today. They hypothesised, and they looked at it, and they will go on from that, either you next week or me after your placement is finished. I should be able to say, yes, they can draw simple conclusions of their own, and they can give an explanation of their reasoning. So that's one that I'd put a mark by the side, and I'd say, right, I've got evidence, but I need a bit more evidence of that. Okay. We look at MA3, the shape and measure, and we may look here that we've got part we've got part things. Just to tell you as well, there are also level descriptors, so we can look at those as well. So if we look at MA3, shape, space and measures, which is really what your work was based on, use a wider range of properties of 2D and 3D shapes and identify the symmetries of 2D shapes. We've only worked on 2D shapes. What about symmetries? Would you be able to assess from what they've done that they would know those symmetries?
I don't think so, no.
No. Except that when they're working out the areas of the hexagon and the pentagon today, you were saying, well, that triangle's exactly the same as that triangle, isn't it? And so do you need to work them all out? So you were actually addressing that. Whether we'd be confident enough to say, yes, they've got it, but you were actually addressing that. Using language associated with angle, and know the sum of a triangle and the angles at a point. That came up today as well.
Yeah, Richard knew the sum of the triangle, didn't he?
He did, but he needed prompting because he started off by saying it's 360, so it's 120 degrees each. And then I sort of looked at him and said, are you sure? Yeah, 360 degrees, right, okay. Think of what the angles of a triangle add up to. And he knew that it was 180, so he then knew that it was 60. What he was giving was the external angles, which again is another progression. What about the you haven't done any transforming of shapes? That's a level 5 objective. I have done that in my lesson with that group and the rest of their group, so they do know that, and I know that I can highlight that. The next bit, from what you've been doing, measure and draw angles to the nearest degree. You don't know that they can do that from what they've been doing, right? But I know because I've used the protractor and we've measured them and we've talked about which way we go. So we have to keep looking. Over the course of 3 weeks, you're not going to colour much in.
Yeah.
But as long as you are aware of what we do, and the way that you're saying that we would like to progress what they're doing, they'll do some work on handling data. Possibly if we do, more